You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Tonight's story comes from a former public safety officer, a man trained to stay calm in the worst situations. But that training didn't matter when Mike came face to face with something that haunts his memories to this very day. This is the story of Mike, the man who faced the forest people but walked away changed. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, you've got the privilege of talking to Mike today. Mike is an individual that I got connected to that has been involved with some different cryptid-themed research over the years, going back to, I think, about 2013. So we'll be talking about Bigfoot today, maybe some other things as well. But welcome to the show, Mike. How's it going, man?
It's going good.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. I know you're a busy guy doing lots of stuff, but thank you for taking some time to share what you've experienced over the years. Do you mind taking us back to what first got you involved with this exploration?
Around 2013, I was involved with coyote hunting, and then I spent quite a bit of time hunting nighttime at various farms in central Indiana, eastern Indiana, southern Indiana. Between me and two buddies, we had dozens of properties that we would go to. And one night in eastern Indiana, we had something happen that made me go from being a complete non-believer, had no interest in the subject matter, total skeptic, to what I've become today, which is a pretty dedicated field researcher. We had an anomaly come in to our call that, later in life, I think I figured out was a dogman. So.
Oh, wow. Do you mind sharing what happened to you in eastern Indiana that day?
We were doing a calling set. We had coyotes respond to a calling set. In the middle of the coyotes sounding off, something stopped the coyotes with a louder vocal. We didn't know what that was. And then it was maybe 10, 20 minutes later, what we found out to be later, a dogman came to basically just the other side of a field tree row. It had come through one field, crossed through the corn, and then came up to the tree row and stopped. And we observed it through our thermal, and it freaked me and my hunting partner out pretty bad, to the point that, that partner and I haven't really discussed it since. He's gone the opposite direction with it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. At that point, I kind of understand, because both crews we were in at the point, I'll just say we worked both in public safety, just different sectors at that time. And but we observed it for maybe 5 minutes at the most. It wasn't very long. It was quadrupeded the entire time. It was trying to locate us on the other side of the field. It was cinching the air. It never visually laid eyes on us, I don't believe, because it never zeroed in on our location. But it was scanning, trying to figure out, obviously. It was trying to find our call, which we weren't calling any longer. But with any, large predator, they're pretty good at triangulating at least a general area of a distress call or howls. So it knew we were in the area, or thought we were in the area. So as soon as it turned around and left, we left, which then led to about a year of me just listening to various podcasts and doing academic research, trying to figure out what I had just seen.
What a way to get into the field. Could you see how, so you saw it down on all fours. Could you tell how high or what the height of the creature when it was on all fours was?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's over 5 foot. It's behind. So it's sloped like a wolf, as I've described before. It's sloped like a wolf. Its shoulders are over 5 foot. And it's just the best way to describe it is it's like looking at a wolf on steroids. Uh, Big ears, long tail. Um, through your later research, I would call it I don't know, different researchers call it different things, but the best way to describe it is a soldier dogman, or an alpha, like a wolf dogman. Um, but over 5 foot at the shoulders, at the top, at the front shoulders. Rear shoulders might have been a little shorter, or the hindquarters.
That's extremely intense. So it sounds like after this scenario, then you go into, listening to different shows. I'm guessing probably Dogman shows, probably some Bigfoot shows, all over the place. Who knows? But then, was there a time when you decided to actively go back and start getting back out there yourself to try to figure out what was going on here?
Yeah, so between listening to the shows and um, that incident, it just made me start thinking about, well, had I been around Sasquatch and dogmen before, and I had just not known it and not thought about it because as a kid, I spent a significant amount of time in the woods. And then up until that point, I was a pretty avid angler and hunter. That's the first thing I did is I started thinking, well, wait a second. When I was looking over my shoulder because I felt like I was being watched, but I couldn't find what was looking at me. Was I near them then? That's one of the first things that I started doing was reanalyzing my past. And then slowly but surely, I was kind of in shock for about a year. I didn't know what to do with, where to go with it, but it took me about a year, and then I started doing some research in southern Indiana at an area that I hunted, and I had been spooked there before, which is part of what I had reanalyzed. I was trying to figure out why I felt like I was being watched down there. So I went down to that location, and same vibe, same everything that had made me wonder why I felt like I was being watched before, but nothing more than that when I went back there. But I was more aware at that point that, well, wait a second, if it's not a potential person that's out here, then what else is it? We have transient mountain lions, we have transient black bears, but truly, other than bobcats, there's not that many significant predators in that area. So I started wondering, well, what is out here that's making my instincts go on alert, and what is staring at me? It's definitely not a coyote. I'm around coyotes all the time, and they never spook me. So I went down there, but that research didn't last for very long because I moved down to Alabama from that point. And the real hardcore research started about 2015. And that's when I really got more into field work. I joined the BFRO, and I started using their database to interview people, and interviewing people helped me narrow down properties that were worth spending time on. And because of that, I developed a couple of core research areas, and That just once that started, the things really started happening from that point forward for me.
Now, down in Alabama, I'm guessing we both know that there's some really intense areas in Alabama, and a lot of listeners might know as well. These areas that you were focusing on, were they the ones that people, usually comes to mind for people when they think about cryptids in Alabama, or were these kind of newer places?
So, yeah, a lot of people when they think about Alabama, they're thinking. I like that. So I don't like to name names of locations, even though some are known. I don't want to draw undue attention to an area, even if others have spoken the name a dozen times. Most people are thinking central and northern Alabama, which I've been in those areas, and yes, those areas are definitely active. I just recently drove through one of the hot spots in northern Alabama with my wife, and she's not into this subject at all. But even she was creeped out just driving through the area. That's a hot spot in northern Alabama that a lot of people have spoken the name multiple times in the past. But the areas actually that I focused on were down on the coast, right down within an hour of the Gulf Coast, which I found through my field research that actually you're definitely in it. When you're in northern Alabama and central Alabama, northern Mississippi, central Mississippi, Georgia, southern Tennessee, I'm not taking anything away from those areas because they're definitely active and you can have incidents up there. But for whatever reason, it seems to be that the concentration of individuals is much more dense on the actual coast, which, as I get further into my research, brings up kind of a point of confusion for me now because I've crossed into a different potential conclusion with my research within the last year that has me wondering why a individual why cryptids, Bigfoot or dogman, would have a population density based on biology or ecology when they have abilities to also not quite be in this reality or dimension at the exact same time, which you probably weren't expecting me to go that far that fast, but that's where my research has gone.
Well, Mike, I can hear it in your voice that you are an individual that you have come to some conclusions and they have really rocked your worldview. I know what that sounds like in a voice because I've just because of doing this for years. It's very interesting. Coming to certain realizations will affect a person greatly, and it'll be interesting to hear probably later if that's something that you could share once we get to that part, what the conclusion was. But you're starting to focus on the Gulf Coast area, and was there a time that you can think of that you remember? Okay, I've narrowed down this area, and now you're out there, and you had an experience where you're like, oh wow, there is definitely something going on here that is not normal.
So I mean, it started off slowly. I started talking to an individual that they had some rocks thrown at them. I went to research that area, and so I went researching that area, and me and a research partner returned to that area one night, and we were with the individual that had rocks thrown at him, and uh, sorry, can you repeat that question again? I was about to go into an incident, but I wanted to make sure I answer your
Oh
question
yeah,
the
and
correct way.
it's exactly what you're about to go into. Was pretty much, was there a catalyst event when you started researching down there that was like made you think, yeah, there is definitely something going on down here after I just had that happen to me?
Yes. Yeah, so me and my field research partner met up with the individual that had rocks thrown at him. Um, I apologize. One of my other partners, which is my dog, is being a pain right now, so that's why I got distracted. um, and we were in the area that this gentleman had rocks thrown at him, walking down a road, and in this road, you have pines on both sides, planted pines, probably about 20 feet back, maybe 10 to 20 feet back from the edge of the road. On this section of the road, there's a bank of built up dirt, and it was well after dark. Um, while walking down the road, just talking amongst ourselves, I caught a shape out of the corner of my eye and I stopped. And as I was looking at it, I realized there was the best way I can describe it is just a tall person standing on the edge of that wood line on the top of that dirt pile. But it wasn't quite a person, and it was a black outline. It was just standing there. Um, I asked the other gentleman, my main primary partner, and the other gentleman, did they see that? And they did. Um, well, in that time period, we looked away for a split second, not even probably a full second. And when we looked back, it was gone. Um, we backed up from that area for a minute, probably a minute, 2 minutes, not that long, just enough for me to go from what the heck was that to being curious. And so I reapproached that area with my flashlight on. And between the edge of the road and the tree line is a grassy area, a bushy area. Um, and as I reapproached that area, um, I came upon, the best way I can describe it is that same individual that was standing on the dirt bank. Well, I assume it's the same individual in the grass, on its stomach, spider. I think I caught it spider crawling from that dirt bank towards us because it was diagonal from the original location to where we had retreated to. And it was half the distance from basically that dirt bank to the road. When I walked up on it, it froze. I froze um, because I couldn't believe what I was looking at. The other two guys were hanging back, so they weren't with me, but they saw me freeze. And my instincts, I think, got the best of me because after a brief pause, I turned around and took off, which then they took off. As soon as I started running, they started running. Actually, my one partner asked me, "Why are we running?" When once I got to the vehicle, and I just said, "Let's go." We got midway down the road. I calmed down again. It's like, "Why are we leaving?" I said, "Stop." And then I also started explaining to him what I saw. I said, "We got to go back." So we went back. Of course, by the time we got back there, whatever had been in the grass was gone. And I just did a bunch of pareidolia pictures trying to recreate what I'd seen. We went back there during the daylight trying to recreate it. We just, no matter what we did, we could not come up with a an excuse or an explanation for what we had seen. So um, I'm pretty sure at that point we had seen a Sasquatch trying to spider crawl towards us, which based on later incidents, it made more sense that it was probably a juvenile. Whether or not it was a century or not is up for debate. But it had been, we had caught it standing on the dirt bank. It froze. As soon as it got the opportunity to not be seen, it moved locations. Did it dive into the grass at that point? I don't know. All I know is that when we approached the area, it was trying to get closer to us by approaching through the grass, spider crawling towards us. We returned to that area. That definitely rocked me, but what happened next really threw me off. And now I'm at the point where nothing really rocks me, nothing really throws me off. Anything, I'm kind of accepting of whatever. But anyways, we went back and same location, same intersection, same area we've been going for a long time. It was just me and the one gentleman this time, and we were just sitting in his vehicle. And the best way I can describe it is my instincts went on alert. I felt like I was being watched. I told my partner I felt like we were being watched. It went from that to just an extremely strong gut feeling of something is nearby, something is approaching. It was way more than I'm just being watched. And then the best way I can describe it, like I've described before, is having someone put thoughts in your mind, which is, I know, not something some people can understand, but it's basically what some people probably describe as mind speak. Something was telling me, I'm going to kill you. Basically along those lines. I'm going to kill you. How dare you? Just, it was not a good vibe. Really bad vibe. I was telling my partner, I was like, I don't know what is going on, but I said him to tell my partner. I said he is pissed, and my partner, who's been doing research a lot longer at that point than I had, said, "Yeah, you caught him counting coup. You you hurt his honor." I said, "What are you talking about?" Because I'd never discussed that subject to that point with him. And at that point, this was not the time to have that discussion. A whole bunch of stuff was going on all at once. I'm like experiencing potential mind speak for the first time. I have my partner talking to me about counting coup for the first time. I have something approaching the vehicle that's giving off vibes like I'm gonna rip your head off. It was a pretty trippy experience. But anyways, I told my partner, I was like, is he right next to me? Because I was so scared at that point I couldn't open my eyes. I mean, my eyes were open, but I wouldn't look like anywhere. I was like looking straight forward and looking to my left at my partner. Something was giving off such a vibe to my right that I was scared to look out the passenger window. And my partner said he's right there. And I said, what do you mean he's right there? And he said he is right there in the window. Right, just on the other side of the glass of you. And I looked just enough out of the corner of my eye to see basically a black outline. Bottom of the window, bottom right corner, more the middle. middle middle of the window, bottom side of the window, black outline head. I couldn't look. Well, if I had looked, I probably would have looked it straight in the face, but I didn't look straight over. At that point, I shut my eyes. Um, I was scared. It's probably the most scared I'd ever been being around them. My partner proceeded to help me out. He said, just tell him sorry. Just say sorry. So I literally started saying sorry. I said, I said sorry countless times, probably a dozen times. And I was saying it out loud, um, which I don't know what that did. I don't know why that helped. But for whatever reason that Sasquatch approached the window, it had retreated to the back corner of the car at that point because the intensity level of my fear dropped significantly. I had talked to him, I asked my partner, "Is he gone?" And she said he was. I opened my eyes. I looked in the rearview window mirror. I looked in that mirror on the side of the car, and he was, whatever that was in the back corner of the vehicle. I said, he's not gone. Told my partner that. I was like, he's not gone. He's back by the back of the car. And then I asked him to leave. He slowly put it in drive, and we slowly drove off, which the individual in question did not follow us at that point. We got down the road a ways. I proceeded to get sick. I started shaking. I vomited. I was a mess. I'd been through adrenaline dumps before. This was way more than just an adrenaline dump. I just felt off physically, and I was pretty shooken up. I was off for at least a day from that one. I was just fatigued and kind of in a fog for about 24 hours. But that definitely rocked my world as far as research is concerned. But that also kind of put the gas pedal on for me, because from that point forward, I've decided to. I'm still cautious, but I've slowly but surely been removing more and more of my safety protocols. I still try not to go alone. I still try not to go as far out as what my partner does. He likes to sleep in locations by himself in hammocks. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but that's definitely put the gas on for me when it came to my research.
Mike, that's incredible. Do you when you were hearing the mind speak thoughts, was it when it was right there by your window?
I can't correlate whether or not it was right then or when it. It was definitely happening when he was there, but I can't say whether or not it was happening when it was also approaching or not. I think it was a combination of when it was right there and approaching. Maybe when it was sneaking up on the car, but yes, it was happening when he was right there, even though I wasn't looking at him.
So the way that you were affected, and do you think it may have done, or do you think it may have had something to do with being zapped, or it was just a straight adrenaline dump, or hard to tell?
I definitely, I've, infrasound or being zapped or their ability to manipulate energy in different forms. I don't know exactly what it is, but I definitely think it was more than just an intense moment. Um, I don't know exactly what made me sick, but it was more. I don't think it was just, hey, I got freaked out.
Mm. It doesn't sound like it. That's extremely intense. So you were saying that you've been taking off the safety protocols slowly. So does that mean then that you are getting to the point where you're starting to go out and research again?
Yeah, I've been doing research ever since, and that threw me off for like 24 hours as far as physically and mentally, but I got over it. Uh, when it comes to anything to do with Sasquatch or dogman, I'm pretty much at the point since then. I just shrug my shoulders if I don't understand it fully. I'm pretty open to whatever anymore. Um, I don't openly discuss the subject with everyone and anyone, and I purposely keep some distance from the subject matter to a certain extent. But as far as the subject matter itself, I'm pretty open minded and go with whatever anymore. Um, I've been doing research ever since that day. One of the safety protocols I removed is I still go alone. I mean, I still don't go alone that often when it comes to being on foot, but I will go alone in vehicles, whether that's in a boat or a vehicle like a truck, car, um, which I used to not do. I used to want to have at least a partner with me at all times, but I've gotten to the point where I go alone in vehicles now, which I have to say, going alone is definitely a lot more productive. Uh, Going alone or going light, as in not having more than 3 people max, is usually the way to go. Whatever we're dealing with is intelligent. Whatever we're dealing with is, I mean, it's more than intelligent. It's not going to put itself in a position of um, disadvantage. And if you're trying to observe it and go into the woods with 10 people, I'm not saying that they won't play with you. I'm not saying that they won't come around. I'm not saying that you won't have encounters, but they're not going to get as close to you and they're not going to be as willing to approach you as they would be if it's just you and one other person or just you. Um,
So when you go into an area now and you're trying to see if you can have an interaction, what is your do you have preferred methods that you usually follow or protocol or anything like that?
yeah. I use, depending on if it's a new area that I'm just like scouting out, that I have got no prior reports from, or it's just really old reports in the area and it might not be for that exact area. Um, it's usually just me and one other person or just myself, and the best method for me is to camp. You can just camp. Like literally that's all you got to do. You don't have to do anything else. Is just camp. Or you can um, pull up in your vehicle at a camping spot. You don't even have to camp. Just pull up in your vehicle and hang out. Now you might have to hang out till 3 a.m. Um, but if something's gonna happen, if they're gonna come, if they're in the area, um, they'll be there. they'll usually be there within a couple hours of you being there. You don't have to do anything else. Now, you want to step it up, you can do calls. There's calls that I use. But I found that's not even necessary. Um, honestly, if they're in the area and they're willing to play, all you have to do is place yourself in the area.
Was the communication you received that day, was that a one-time event, or I guess the thoughts that you
Has stuff like that happened?
Right,
Has
yeah.
stuff like that happened
Yeah.
after that? Yeah, it's happened again. It wasn't like the same. It wasn't it was like the first time, but it wasn't, hey, I'm going to kill you.
That's good.
Yeah, that's happened again, which is part of the reason why I'm kind of like whatever with it now. Same partner, different state. We're in Florida this time. We were in a different research area. Walking a trail, and my instinct started going off. I was like, dude, something's wrong. I was like, I don't know what it is, but something's off. He's like, I don't feel it. And I was like, dude, I'm telling you right now, something is wrong. And he's like, he basically convinced me to keep on going. So we kept on pushing it. And slowly but surely, I started having that same thing happen. But this time it was different in that it wasn't coming through as in, I don't know how to describe it. The first time was coming through with bad vibes, was I'm gonna kill you, it was just bad, all the way bad. This time, whatever was happening was much more gentle, and basically it just was placing I don't know how they do it, but whatever it was doing, it was telling me basically, hey, you need to go. This is not, you can't stay here. This is a bad idea. Tell your partner to turn around. You guys need to go. So I finally started telling my partner, because I had talked to him about what had happened. I was like, I told him, I was like, that time I told you they were basically talking to me and like they weren't talking to me. I was like, that's happening. Excuse my language. That stuff's happening again, and it's telling me to go. So which stopped him in his tracks. Once I said that, he stopped, and he's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, I basically looked at him. I said, "Do I look serious?" So we turned around. The feeling of this is a bad idea went from a 70 to 100, and I told my partner to run. I don't know what got into me. I don't know why, but I ran. We ran, I don't know, less than a quarter mile. We ran far enough that we could still see down the trail where we'd come from. And we stopped. We got out back towards a trailhead area. And we were looking back down the trail where we had come from. I don't know what came out on the trail, but whatever came out on the trail came out on all fours. Whatever came out on the trail was bigger than a hog. Whatever came out on the trail was not quite a canine, was not a hog. It was not as big as that dogman that I had seen in Indiana, but it was bigger than a hog. Yeah, and I'm talking about a boar hog. Whatever. So part of this incident, my partner had gone to the bathroom on that trail before we ran. Whatever came out on the trail stopped and smelled where he went to the bathroom. And then looked down the trail at us, and then took off into the bush. I don't know what it was. I don't know what that was. And I still don't know what that was to this day. But the more I look back on it, I can't say that that wasn't. More and more I call them the forest people, but I don't quite think they're the gentle forest people that everybody thinks they are. There's definitely a division with them. Some are good, some aren't. Let's just put it that way. But the best category I can call them is the forest people. I think maybe a female in that clan, in that area, had done us a solid and helped us vacate that area before whatever that was decided to, give us a visit, which I don't think we would have done so well if whatever that was that came out on the trail, if we had been in that exact spot when it came out on the trail, based on the way that it came out on the trail, because it was booking when it hit that trail. Like it went from a dead run to a dead stop when it hit that trail. So whatever, based on the way things went down, when we were running out, whatever that was probably running towards us. If you understand what I'm saying, because it hit that trail moving, and it stopped on a dime. Like I said, smelled the area we were in, looked down the trail at us, and then took off and disappeared. But I don't think that if we'd been where it was when it hit the trail, I'd be talking to you right now.
There's a few questions I have for you, just because I'm not super knowledgeable with the dogman side of things. So I just want to clarify a few things. So it sounds like you may have been dealing with a dogman at this time, or you're not exactly sure.
That's the problem with this one. I can't say what that was because it was not. It could have been a dogman, but it was smaller than the average dogman that we've dealt with. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
Also, it was more compact.
Gotcha. The other thing is you mentioned that there is mind speak in that scenario as well. And this is something I'm not aware of. Our dogman reported to be involved with mind speak incidents as well?
Yeah, they are. There's definitely mind speak incidents being reported, whether across species, whether it's dogman or Sasquatch. But I just based on my intuition and a few other things, I don't think that dogman was talking to us.
Okay, so there could have been something else in those woods that day as well with you.
Yeah. That area is well known for a clan that we investigate of Sasquatch. They're friendly, to say the least. They're quite friendly. They've gotten extremely close to my partner. Like from within, I don't know how much he wants me to talk about it, but they just say they've gotten close. And they're pretty chill. That area is usually pretty chill. Well, let me rephrase that. One side of the road is chill, the other side of the road is not. One side of the road is associated with non-historical bad vibes. The other side of the road has a lot of blood spilled. If you're understanding where I'm going with that.
I think I do. Also, so this is in Florida. Are there different types of Bigfoot down there? Maybe some that look more like apes and some that look more like humans?
Yeah. So let me rephrase it. It makes it when I say this. I'm no expert. I'll never claim to be an expert. Anybody that claims to be an expert, just quit listening to them. There are definitely experienced field researchers out there, and from what I've gathered and been blessed to learn, pretty much, there's definitely different types of Sasquatch. Florida's pretty awesome in that the further south you get into a different type of Sasquatch that I don't have as much experience with, but the best way to describe them is like a freaking hairy orangutan, but they're not an orangutan. And I don't know why that is. I haven't quite understood why that is. And the further I've gone into my research, I'm even more confused about it. But there's definitely different type of Sasquatch down there. The northern part of the state, the best way I can describe it, is similar to Alabama. And Alabama is, the best way I can put it is, if you've ever listened to the Bigfoot Outlaws or anyone associated with those guys, you have your standard boogers, which I know that's a crazy name, but it's the best name for the South, honestly. And they're not the big ones that you're used to from the West Coast. They don't get as big as the West Coast, except for maybe the alphas tend to get pretty big, though. But there's big ones around. That's the part that's confusing about the South. It's not all just the skinnier, muscle-built individual, because they all have muscle. They're all pretty well built, but you're not talking about 10-foot plus individuals. You're talking 6 foot, 6 to 8 foot, built like a mid-sized boxer, or just a stout athlete. They can get skinnier than that, but even the skinny ones are still pretty ripped. They all have it doesn't matter which ones you're dealing with, they all have muscle definition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. So it sounds like in this area, there have been times where it's gotten pretty violent or aggressive. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, between Alabama and locations in Florida, when things go south, it usually involves just rocks being thrown, trees knocked over, bluff charges, growls. When they want you to leave, they'll let you know they want you to leave. It's pretty straightforward. They make it well known. But that's the thing. It's never gotten to the point where they've actually carried it out. The rocks never have the rocks have never hit me or my partner. The trees have not hit me or my partner. They've come close. They've definitely got our attention. But for all the bluster and show, nothing has happened. But that's also probably has to do with the fact that we don't tend to push past that point, because I have a feeling in some of these incidents where if they tell you to leave and you don't leave, I don't know what the next stage is.
That's a dog, right?
I don't know. Yeah, that's my pup. Cool. Hey. Yeah, yesterday, I mean, with that in mind, my pup, we're not in an area where I'm doing research right now. She's just barking at a person, but I tend to bring her along as an alert. She's extremely protective, she sees things before I see them sometimes. And yesterday I was in a research area. Just a quick note. New research area. I'm in a different state than I'm back in Indiana right now. I might as well just say that. I travel quite a bit for my job, so I get around because I've done research in Indiana and North Dakota, Missouri. I don't know. I've done research in a lot of states. But anyways, I'm in Indiana right now. I'm in an area of interest. I was down in an area of interest and just parked at a location briefly. Um, I wasn't paying attention to anything of particular at that point, and the individual you just heard growl was in the back seat where she usually is, and she started growling. Which at this point we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're not around. There's no people around. There's no reason for her to be growling unless a squirrel had come out of the tree or um, some other animal had popped up out of the forest. So she starts growling. I turn around. I'm trying to figure out, what are you growling at? Well, I studied the area. Never found out what she was growling at. Needless to say, I'm going back to that area because I need to figure out what she was growling at. But as my research has progressed, it's getting a little past just going to an area, which I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to get, but um,
Well, yeah, I would say it sounds like you have come to some interesting conclusions, or you've started to. And yeah, I am perfectly fine if you want to share some things that you've discovered along the way. I have no problem with that.
well, I mean, the longer you're in this field, if you talk to anybody that's been in this field for quite a while, um, I tend, I studied, let's say this, I studied from individuals like Kunbo Baker and Bear off of Bigfoot Outlaws. Now, did I work with them in the field? No, but they put all their research online. You can learn how to do what they're doing based purely on they teach you everything. If you listen. A lot of people don't listen, but if you listen long enough, they basically tell you everything there is to learn to get started. Which I started using, their tactics pretty quick back in the, like 2015 onwards, which I've refined them since. But my point is, if you listen to guys like that, or Kane's based out of Ohio, Kane Michael, he's another extremely good researcher. But there was a gentleman down in Tennessee that recently died a few years ago.
Scott Carpenter.
Yeah, Scott Carpenter. Another good researcher. If you listen to any of those guys, as they've been in the field, they've slowly but surely become more open to the woo side of things, is the best way I can put it. And I was originally just purely physical, flesh and blood, had no interest in anything to do with the other side of the research. But I can't deny what's happened in the field, so it is what it is. And now I'm at the point now where I question whether or not we're dealing with. I think we're dealing with flesh and blood, but just because we're dealing with flesh and blood does not mean that you're not also dealing with something else. What that something else is up for interpretation. But whether or not Scott Carpenter was on the right path when he's talking about the fallen and hybrid blood, I don't know. Whether or not they can or cannot teleport and move from dimensions, you tell me. Can they or can they not use camouflage as in what you've seen in the Predator movies? Maybe. I know what I've experienced. I know that what I've seen and been through definitely has made me wonder, huh? I'll just say, huh? Um, but I don't want anybody else to. This is definitely a journey you got to go down for anyone that's interested in it. You're gonna have to go down this journey yourself because I can tell you my conclusions, but you haven't been done. You haven't walked in my shoes, so you don't know why I've come to the conclusions I've come to. So, and a lot of the things I've found are so like they're so earth shattering for some individuals that they need to experience it for themselves if they truly want to know the answers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, anyone that goes down this road will start to experience things similar to what you've been alluding to, and they'll have to come to grips with it themselves. They'll either start to have their mind open, or they will start to say, I don't want to deal with this, and I'm just going to focus on other things in the subject.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah. My thing is, for me, I've made the decision on which direction I'm going to go, but I don't suggest this for everyone because I think the deeper you get, you start getting into you just need to understand what you're messing with. Let's just put it that way.
I agree. And it's like I think you need to be aware of the potential of what it could be as well.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting subject, and I can definitely tell you that you've experienced things along the way. And just to ask, are there any things that you can share that made you start, thinking that way? Even, and if you don't want to, that's no problem. So,
I mean, sorry, I stepped outside for a second. My
you're good.
partner in crime was back there. She was back there starting to growl no matter what. So we're outside right now. How do I put this? I mean, I was originally flesh and blood, 100%. For one, I had no interest in this subject matter to start with. Sasquatch and dogman, and I've went from one end of the spectrum to the completely other end of the spectrum, for one, because I went from being the guy that you could talk to me about Sasquatch, and I would tell you that Bigfoot didn't exist, for one, to now I'm on the totally other end of the spectrum to where I'm pretty convinced that not only, well, I can tell you 100% they exist, for one. Two, while they may be flesh and blood, being flesh and blood does not mean that they're not also something else. So I've definitely gone to the complete other end of the spectrum. How I got there is I've just had so many freaking experiences that for example, standing in the backyard of a house, feeling like you're being watched. Nothing is there physically. You can't see anything visually with your eyes, but you know you're being watched. I started taking pictures. That's one thing. In incidents where I feel like I'm being watched, but I can't see anything. Let me rephrase that. When I feel like I'm being watched, period, I've started to just start. I start taking pictures of my surroundings. And this incident, same thing. Felt like I'm being watched. The hair's up on the back of my neck. I'm like, I can't figure out why the vibe's off. Start snapping pictures, and I'm looking at the pictures, and anytime I find something in a photo, my protocol is I don't just go with it. I send it off to individuals I trust. I don't tell them anything. I don't say, "Hey, do you see XYZ?" I just say, "Hey, tell me what you think," because I don't want to prompt them into anything. I just want to hear their feedback. You know, so I don't want to lead them. Investigation techniques is you don't want to lead a witness, and you don't want your investigation partner to be led in any one direction. You want them to come to their own conclusion. If their conclusion matches yours, that's great. If it doesn't, well, that's what you want, because you want the conclusion to be natural. So anyways, I send those photos off. They get watched. They get looked at pretty quick by a couple of people I trust. They see everything I'm seeing. So I'm like, what in the heck? Because this is all within 10 minutes. When what we were looking at is in that backyard, basically in the pictures, you can see what looked like it's like three dogman on the other side of a fence looking at me. But I can't see them physically. But in the picture, they're there. With that being said, is there a reason I can't see them physically at that moment? Because of the fact that they're supreme at standing on the edge of the light, and they love to stay in the shadows. That might have something to do with it. They might have physically been there, and my eyes just visually could not adjust to seeing them because of the fact that they were right there on the edge of the transition line between the light and the dark. But for whatever reason, I could not visually observe them. But they stood out in the pictures. But in the pictures, they look off also. The best way I can describe it is they're in the picture, but they're not. Which in that, just incidents like that, and then listening to individuals like Scott Carpenter and a few others just started me down the rabbit hole of, well, are we dealing with specimens that can materialize in our world, but yet are we dealing with something that a lot of people just can't wrap their minds around? Pretty much. I mean, can they be here and not be here? Can they appear here and then disappear? It brings up a lot of questions about dimensions and parallel dimensions, and how can they appear and disappear, and then how can tracks through a snowy field disappear into nothing?
It's some wild stuff. You're right. The deeper you go down, just the weirder that it gets. Has there been a point in your research, the years after you had one that was right against the window, and you weren't able to look at it? Has there ever been a time when you've been able to have a visual of what you think is a Bigfoot out in the field, or has it been like other types of interactions?
Yeah. Well, I've seen a dogman and a Bigfoot. Dogman, best way I can describe them, the same thing as the first time. They just look like a wolf. They look like a wolf. Well, I'm going to phrase that. Some of them look like wolves. Some of them look like hyenas. Some of them kind of look different than that. They can have different looks to them, but Sasquatch, it depends if I don't know how much you've studied. I call them Sasquatch hybrids because there's different types of Sasquatch out there. Um, and the ones I've visually observed all tend to have a flat face, wider nose. Their face tends to be very similar. It's their muscle structure and their height that can vary significantly. Also, their facial features can be more narrow, depending on the age or the subspecies, I guess you want to just talk about. The one thing that's throwing me off is we've run into a specimen in the field. I haven't seen one for a couple of years now, but they have a snout. Best way to describe it, I call them baboon face. And I relate them to Sasquatch because they have Sasquatch legs, they have Sasquatch bodies, they have Sasquatch arms. They look like a Sasquatch except for they have a snout. And they're not friendly. Well, best way to put this, they're not as time has gone on, they are more warrior mentality. Best way to put it. I don't like being around them. I'll put it that way. I don't like them. I don't like being around them. I don't trust them. I think they're bad juju. I don't really know what they are, but I have research partners that are pretty significantly comfortable around them, and they tend to say that, which I can't argue with their conclusions based on some incidents in the field, which is they'll challenge you, and if you fail that challenge, it won't go so well. Let's just put it that way. So you just need to keep walking.
Would those be
best answer?
Would those be gugways?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've got the reputation of being straight killers. I don't know if they're more or less any more of a killer than any of the others. I just think that they're more and more that I've been in the field that their mentality is more. Best conclusion I can come up with is related to a warrior mentality from like an indigenous tribe. They're going to challenge you. Well, and that's the other thing. Whether you're dealing with them, dogman, Sasquatch, if you put yourself in a situation in which you can disappear without a trace, and the reason for your disappearance can be blamed on other occurrences, and no negative repercussions are likely to occur in that area for the individual in question, you might disappear. So it's best you just don't put yourself in that type of situation, whether you're dealing with them or any of the others.
I think that makes sense. It's just people have to be really careful. There's a lot of people that reach out to me and they're like, hey, can you give me advice? And my number one advice is don't go out by yourself. Try to find a group that, like the Woodwalkers down in the South. Those are good guys, and find people you can trust so that when you're out there, you got people that, can have your back. Like you say, you go out with people sometimes,
Yeah. Like, I know what I'm dealing with. I know the path I'm going down when I'm going by myself is not the safest route. But I've been doing this for years, and I understand what I'm doing. Like, I comprehend the risks I'm taking. Now, do I recommend those to anyone? No, I don't. I strongly suggest anyone that's involved in this field that you always go with a partner. I strongly suggest that you always make it known, where you're going, what you're doing, when you're going to come back. Just a standard, just like you would with any hiking plan. You need to leave your research plan with someone. Now, I understand some people are going to be like, well, I don't want them to know where I'm going, what I'm doing. Well, you don't have to tell them you're doing research. Just make sure someone knows where you went, where you were, when you're coming back, and make sure you have a partner with you. To make sure you take other precautions when you're out there. A lot of people tend to think that they're more dangerous than the others, and I have come to the conclusion that I don't think it's really a species question as much of it as it's an individual question. Like, you can run into bad situations with any of them, and it doesn't matter which species you're dealing with. It matters on which ones you're dealing with and what situations you're dealing with them in, and how you react in those situations. There's more to it than just Gugby's bad, Sasquatch good, dogman bad, Sasquatch good. No, no, there's killers in all of them.
Mike, this has been a really fascinating conversation. As we have a few minutes left, I want to make sure that you're able to, share everything that you'd wanted to share today, and that you're not left wishing you could have said something else.
No. I mean, I'm just doing this field research for my own conclusions. I've kept a pretty low-key social media profile. I do have, my interdimensional wisdom that I've slowly but surely been putting content out on through TikTok and YouTube. The reason I'm on your podcast is I'm becoming more open to hoping that I can help someone out. If anybody's had an incident and they don't know where to go with this, or they want answers and they don't know where to get answers. That's the reason I'm becoming more open about talking about the subject, because that's how I learned initially. So that's the reason I'm on your podcast. Now, I will say I'm not naturally inclined to talking openly about this subject matter, and I totally understand if somebody listens to what I said and they're like, holy crap, that guy's nuts. Because that, for one, I mean, that's just a natural conclusion when you listen to it. But you got to be in the field and truly understand the subject matter to understand why I'm saying the things I'm saying, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And what's the name of your TikTok again, so people can check that out?
Interdimensional wisdom. I went and took, just because of the crap that I've seen in the field, I went, my prior public safety job, I had to do psych evals, and I went back and did the psych eval because of this crap, just to make sure that I hadn't gone nuts. Which, according to them, I'm not, but I would definitely, how do I say this? I would strongly caution anyone that's wanting to get involved in this subject matter, because you need to know what you're getting involved in, and you need to make a decision within yourself on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Because you can go as deep as you want, but you need to understand that the deeper you get, you're going to start getting into some pretty, you're going to get into subject matters that are going to make you question like life and the world around you, pretty much. And not everyone's prepared to go that far. So you just need to know what you're getting involved in when it comes to this research. And if you just want to go out in the field to have encounters, that's great. But if you want to go further than that, it can get pretty complicated, and it can also get dark and dangerous, to say the least.
I think that is a great way to put it. Definitely should give people enough to realize they need to be aware of what could happen, and combining that with other episodes I've done, listeners can definitely figure that out. But, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and hopefully maybe we'll have to keep in touch and see where things lead you in the future.
Yep. I appreciate the opportunity. Maybe I'll come on later and tell more encounters, because I definitely have more. But I appreciate the opportunity.
Just want to take a minute to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Mike's story is one of the most intense we've ever heard, not just because of the spider crawling or the blacked out face at the car window, but because of what it really reveals about the intelligence and possible intentions of the beings in the woods. So huge thanks to Mike for having the courage to speak up. It's stories like his that remind us once you see something you can't explain, your whole world changes. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell icon so you don't miss new episodes, and share this one with a friend who's into Bigfoot, cryptids, or high strangeness. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure to follow the show and leave a 5-star review. It really helps more folks find us. And if you've had a Bigfoot encounter, especially in Indiana, Alabama, or Florida, I'd love to hear from you. So please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Thanks again for being part of the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your instincts, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.